So we talked about a loss that you took. You want to just expound upon that a little bit, kind of what it felt like when you were going through it, and how you sort of look at it now after it's passed in hindsight. I feel like we learn so much from the L's we take in life.
Yeah.
Especially when the world's caving in. There's, you're never going to make it out. There's embarrassment and pride and ego and all these things involved. And then when you look back, you're like, I survived.
Yeah. So I got the phone call, got laid off, and we were a week away from our due date for our first child.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's a great time to get laid off.
yeah. So, I walk into the room with my wife and I'm just in tears. Like, what are you going to do? You spend time building this career. And when I took this other job, we talked about the risk that I was taking, and I was like, hey, I'm putting it on the line because I believe in myself and my wife believed in me. And in the moment, it felt like I failed. It wasn't my fault. It was what was going on in the banking industry. What I was doing required a lot of liquidity.
It's a shitty feeling too.
Banks didn't have it. And
because you feel like your manhood is being assaulted.
Yeah, you feel like you're not good enough. They don't need you.
Yeah.
I'd done a lot of stuff to try and provide value, even though I knew I wasn't producing because I was literally told not to produce. But I sat down, I took stock. I was like, okay, I know I have open doors to go back to banking. But what is the other opportunity that I now have? Because going back to banking in May, June of last year was a risk, right? Banks were imploding. There's the biggest bank failures since the great financial crisis were going on. Not a great time to try and pick a racehorse.
Right.
So I said, why don't I pivot? So my career had been the last 3 years or so, I was lending to different types of private lenders and private debt funds and that sort of thing. And I said, at the end of the day, I want to be someone that runs one of these things. So I better get to learning how to originate and building these relationships, because that's what I'm going to need if I want to do this. I can't just be like, hey guys, I'm smart, I want to run the company.
Right.
So, got started on the broker's exam, had the opportunity to go work with a client of mine. That didn't work out, no harm, no foul, we're still friends. But I think, I turned that into an opportunity that I'm really excited about, the prospect of where I'm at today, because I didn't just throw a pity party and sit around and wait for something to come my way.
Love it. And you built some relationships along the way. All right, dude, let's get into the meat of this thing. All right, so a couple things here. Tell me kind of what your experience is banking versus private lending. Obviously, there are guidelines that are involved. There's the government that's involved. There are, all these different sort of angles, how much money you can make, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Tell me, sort of some of the pros and cons that you see in traditional banking versus the PML space, and then how you sort of navigate that water.
Yeah, so first off, we talked about it a little bit. So having a base salary is pretty nice and it sets you up. But my mentors and a lot of people I've spoken to, nobody really gets rich just working for someone else, right? You gotta have upside.
You gotta feel the pain, dude.
Yeah.
You gotta feel the pain, because climbing a mountain works your muscles out, bro.
Right.
Like, it's not easy to climb a mountain. That's why it's called climbing a mountain.
Right.
But how does it look at the top? And I'm not even saying like I need to get to the top and be a multi-billionaire or whatever, but it's like the top for me is I get to come to work when I want to. I cannot be fired, technically. I can sign a contract today that's worth $10 million, and our company gets all of that money. On the other side, if we don't go close, right? We don't do a good job. We don't produce. Right? We don't deliver on what we say we're going to do.
Right.
We're going to feel some of that pain too. The reason why I'm just, interjecting and throwing this in for you is because I feel like that is a lie that people sort of have adhered to. Yeah, it's nice in theory to get 10K a month, it's coming. But I feel like the best optimal way to do that is to lever that. Learn as much as you can, provide value, be honest, be direct at your company. Don't be sandbagging or bootlegging, work super hard, but educating yourself through your transition into where you want to go. Because I look at it like this, every bank was started by an entrepreneur. Every company was started by an entrepreneur. So if you feel like, I would be betraying the company if I left, no, you wouldn't. Because that person started that company. They didn't stay working for someone else forever. Right. So you can do the same thing. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and there's not the old school mentality of the loyalty where someone's going to keep you on just because you have a relationship and because you've been there for 20 years. I think that ship has sailed, and for better and for worse, right? I think there's a lot of sandbaggers that probably got away with not doing a whole lot because they've been there for a long time, and there's a low tolerance for that now. I think it's great.
Cool. So private banking versus traditional banking or private lending.
Yeah, so banking is so heavily regulated that I didn't even really start posting that much on LinkedIn until after my departure. Like I've been toying with it a little bit and trying to add some value, but really you're bogged down because your words are not the bank's words. And if you say something that contradicts with the people that are above you within your organization, you can find yourself in trouble.
And they monitor you too. I have a friend who works for Merrill. He manages a lot of capital.
Yep.
And yeah, he really cannot post. He can't even come on this podcast.
Yeah, so if you're a financial advisor, it's way worse.
He can't come on the pod, dude.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
But in banking, you can't even share your own opinions because that can be seen as the opinion of the organization. And for him, it's usually like it can be seen as financial advice. So they got to be really careful about that stuff. So there's that. And then, I think the opportunity in banking was to be the guy that was above me, who's 3 or 4 years older than me, probably bringing in $300K, but he was working 60, 70 hours a week, not really having any long-term relationships because he was really married to his work. And when I was thinking about coming back, that was one of the things that really spoke to me, that as much as I loved and admired him and liked the intellectual side of what he was doing, the relationships and stuff like that, I didn't want to continue to progress in that direction.
Yeah,
So
it wasn't appealing to you.
No.
Yeah, climbing the corporate ladder, all the politics and stuff, man. Look, it's not for everyone. It's not for me. It is for some people. So I think there are different strokes out there. All right, so on the private money side, let's talk about raising capital, funds, how this money is sort of put together and then how it's distributed to borrowers, say in the fix and flip, contractors, guys that are building ground up construction, people, there's a difference between, a homeowner, there's DSCR loans, there's different leverage points, there's different costs, fees, etc., different experiences. So tell me kind of how that has worked out for you, how you navigate that water, and how you explain it to, someone who maybe once doesn't understand. Because I remember when I first got into real estate, I was like, I need money. I'm buying a house in San Diego, and where do I go? So I just went to a private money lending conference. You know me, bro. I'm just starting. Hey, I'm here. What's up? Can you borrow some money? Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah.
But
do you have experience? No.
No, but I learned that's what I needed,
Yep.
and then I have to go out and solve for that.
Right.
So I have to get someone. Hey, I have this box that needs to be checked. Can you check it for me?
And that's getting where the puck is going. But hey, this is where I want to be. These are who I need to meet and to learn from in order to get there.